Hey everyone, it's Chris from the Droning Company, and on today's episode of Gear Check, we're taking a look at the HoverAir X1 drone. A quick reminder before we jump into our look at the HoverAir X1, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you love drone content, this is the place to be, so hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, hit the bell icon too. You'll get a notification every time we post a new video. Hover reached out to us not too long ago to ask if we'd be interested in doing a gear check on the HoverAir X1. And of course, with the Droning Company being all things drones, we were more than happy to take on the responsibilities of reviewing this drone. Until we got it. Now, I say that, but I actually mean it in the best way possible. When we got this drone, the first thing we did was figure out how does it fly. And that's when we realized we couldn't actually do a full-fledged gear check review on the HoverAir X1 because this is not a drone that you actually manually fly. This is, for all intents and purposes, a fully autonomous drone. The only user input that happens with this drone is via the app interface or the interface on the top of the drone where you change the flight modes. Everything about this is pre-programmed to fly in a particular way or in a particular flight path. So, that being said, we can't really review a huge aspect of most of the drones that we review on this channel, which is flight characteristics, durability, endurance, all the things that we normally review when it comes to drones. That said, we still want to introduce you to this drone because for a very particular part of our audience, this may be exactly what you're looking for. So when you look at the drone itself, it's got a nice folding design for storage and transportation. You fold it out when you're ready to go. There is a series of magnets on the bottom of this that holds it closed, and then when it's in storage, it's not liable to really fly open without a considerable amount of force. Once you have it unfolded, you'll see that there are a few things on the top of the drone, as well as a couple of obstacle sensors on the bottom. This is purely for landing. There's no obstacle avoidance when in flight other than bottom obstacle avoidance and landing. Looking back at the top of the drone, you'll see that we have our battery indicator at the top. There are 4 lights. 4 full lights means that the battery is full or close to full, and then as it goes down the indicator, that indicates that you may need a battery change. Working down the drone, you'll see that we have a little divot here that you can actually pull the drone battery out. That's how it inserts in. You just slide that flush in and then snap it in, the battery's in. Below that, we have a few icons. We have our hover icon, we have our zoom out icon, we have our follow icon, our orbit icon, our bird's eye icon, and our custom icon. These are all of the flight modes that come with the HoverAir X1. To toggle through these, there's a small button that's situated right in the middle of all of them. You just tap that once and it switches through your flight modes. And then below that is a larger button with a circle in the middle of it. That is your power button as well as your flight start button. So what we'll do here, just to demonstrate the capabilities of this drone right out of the box, once everything's charged up, you just press and hold the power button, your battery icon comes on, you see your green light comes on the front, the gimbal will initialize, all of these lights will initialize, and then it'll play a nice little chime when it's ready to go.
Current mode, orbit.
So we're currently in orbit mode, so what we'll do is we'll tap the button until we come to hover mode. Okay? And there's a reason that I'm gonna do that because I'm actually gonna put this in the air right now in the studio. So it's this simple, and I promise it's this simple. All you do to start your flight, you push the mode that you want this to be in, and then you press the power button once, hold it in your hand, it will initialize, and now the drone is hovering. Now it might have drifted a little bit off camera. It is currently recording me as I'm standing here talking to you. It's quite literally that easy. Now, I currently have it set to subject track. So if I come over here, the drone turns with me. If I come back over here, the drone turns again in an attempt to keep me in frame. When it comes to ending the flight, it's this simple. You hold your hand out underneath the drone, and it lands. And it's that simple. I promise there are no smoke and mirrors. That's how simple it is. Now, if you do want to elevate your game with this particular drone, there is an app that you can download on your smartphone. Once you have the Hover X1 app open, it's just as simple as tapping to connect. All we have to do is go into our smart preview, and this will simulate what it's like to activate or connect to the drone for the first time. It is Wi-Fi based, so it'll prompt you to connect to the Hover X1 Wi-Fi. We'll go ahead and press join. It takes a moment to initialize, but once it does, we actually have a preview of our drone's camera system. Now you'll see here what I really want to draw your attention to are the menus beneath the camera. So we can go ahead and go to settings. And since we are in hover mode right now, it gives us a few different settings to choose from. We've got our duration, which allows you to set it so that the camera will stop recording after a set certain period of time, unless you have what I have selected, which is continue. That's what I prefer. I like the drone to record until I'm ready for it to stop recording. I also have target tracking turned on, which is crucial, like I said before, because if you have it in hover mode and you don't have target tracking turned on, it will simply just hover in place and it will be up to you to stay in frame. When you have target tracking turned on, the drone keeps you in frame by following you as a target tracker. Then we go over to camera settings and you'll see the different video quality settings we have. The max video resolution on the HoverAir X1 is 2.7K at 30 frames per second. You also have the option of 1080p at 30 frames per second or 1080p at 60 frames per second. You also have a countdown for when it can start shooting. I do have it set to a 3-second countdown before it starts shooting video. And you can also set it up so you have grid and diagonal lines so that you can frame your shot as perfectly as you need it to be framed. When you go through the different flight modes, for instance, this is zoom out, we can go ahead and see here that in our flight settings, we have the option to go 5 feet away, 10 feet away, 20 feet away, or 30 feet away. And we have shot options for altitude. We can do a flat shot, which keeps the drone at the altitude it took off from. We can do a rise shot, which means it pulls away and also gains elevation. Or we can do lower, which means that it pulls away and actually loses elevation, which would be perfect if you were standing at the edge of a cliff and you wanted to show a really cool power shot where you were standing at the edge of the cliff and the drone got a shot from underneath you. As we cycle through our different settings, you can see here we have different settings for our flight settings. And I'm not gonna go through all of these because like I said, we're not gonna actually go through and do a full-fledged review, but you can see here, there's a variety of different things you can do with this drone. One of the most interesting ones is custom mode. So for flight modes, you have the option to do a snapshot, which is essentially what it sounds like, a photo of you. Or you can do dolly track, which is essentially just the camera acting as a gimbalized dolly. You can also set the shot duration as well as the distance the drone is from you and the altitude at which it's shooting from, either flat, high, or low. Camera settings remain largely the same as well. You have your options of 1080p at 30 frames per second and HDR. You've got 1080p at 60 frames per second and 2.7K at 30 frames per second with a shot countdown of up to 3 seconds and your option to turn on your grid lines. Now, all of that is well and good, but what can this camera actually do? We've seen drones in the past that claim to shoot at 4K, and really it's like a 480 or 360p that's been upscaled and it looks grainy and terrible. I was expecting much of the same from this drone, but I have to tell you, and I'll be the first to admit, I ate a gigantic slice of humble pie. This drone has incredible camera quality for its class and its capabilities. The 2.7K is true 2.7K with sharp, clear imagery, and it's perfect for anybody that's looking to do content creation, particularly that type of content creation that requires a cameraman, but you don't have access to a cameraman. The HoverAir X1 will replace that cameraman and then some. Don't believe me? I had it with me in Blanco, Texas at Dragonfly and Cold Chain's Joint Air Center, where there's acreage upon acreage to fly drones. This was the perfect place to try this out, and I was able to go through all of the flight modes. Check them out. So, now that you've seen all that, what do I think of the HoverAir X1? It's really no mystery where I stand on this. I've alluded to it throughout the course of this video. I am extremely impressed by the HoverAir X1. It has humbled me immensely. And what I mean by that is you become jaded as a drone reviewer. You see a bunch of different drones come in that claim to do all of these things, and then they fall woefully short of their build capabilities. This drone hit it right on the money. Not only is the camera quality fantastic for the class this drone falls into, it's also really easy to use. The only complaint that I had about its usability is the learning curve is somewhat steep, but once you get over that learning curve, it's super simple, like stupid simple. And while that learning curve is steep, it really only takes a few times out in the field with this drone to learn the user interface and your way around the drone so that you can get it to do what you want it to do. Is this drone for everyone? I'd be lying to you if I said it was. It really is not for everyone, in that if you're looking for optimal control over your drone, I mean the ability to take over and actually tell this drone where it needs to go and what it needs to do, this is not the drone for you. There's no way to actually manually control the drone using an RC with the HoverAir X1. Not even on the app is there a digital interface where there is a digital joystick set that you can tell the drone how high you want it to go, how low you want it to go, pitch, yaw, all those things. It's all pre-programmed and it's all autonomous. The only thing the user does is sets what flight mode they want the drone to take and carry out, and then you press the go button, and it's as simple as that. However, if you are a content creator and you don't want to learn how to fly a drone, but you want aerial imaging for your content, look no further than the HoverAir X1. This thing is absolutely fantastic for that particular use case, and the camera quality is high enough that it can be used on any digital social media platform. I would use this on my social media platforms because the camera quality is there. If you just need something quick, simple, and easy to use, the HoverAir X1 is the drone for you. What do you think of this drone? Is this something that you would invest in? Let us know down in the comments below. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up icon. While you're at it, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. We cover all things in the drone industry, and we love to share the information that we get from manufacturers, the FAA, and more. So while you're at it, hit the bell icon. You'll get a notification every time we post a new video. Until next time, I'm Chris from the Droning Company. Have a nice day.